Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. A lot to break down this week. Obviously, the Jets blew another 14-point lead against the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday, losing on a last-second field goal. So we'll break down that sadness, and then we'll look forward to this weekend's game against the defending NFC champions, the Atlanta Falcons. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at the Jet Take, as well as our other social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. If you want to listen to the podcast, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio. And as always, we're on turnonthejets.com. Make sure you check out all of those guys. Great work on that website. But as always, I am joined by Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey.
Yeah, we're here. I mean,
how are you doing? Yeah, we're here. Wow. Kyle is in a talkative mood today.
Yeah, I mean, we're here. We're alive. Our hearts are beating. The Jets' fourth quarter offense is putrid, I guess.
Yeah,
this
you
is
could
my,
say that.
Yeah, this is my worst nightmare. This is honestly my worst nightmare. Just enough to get my heart into it, and just to get my heart stomped on week after week, but still, be respectable enough to screw ourselves out of a top pick. So,
I'm actually not angry with the team playing hard whatsoever, Kyle. So, I mean, look, would I prefer if it wasn't Josh McCown playing quarterback, especially that last interception?
Ooh,
I mean,
he's got a back injury this week, mysterious back injury. Sounds like a steady game to me.
Ooh. Maybe. Look, if that was Bryce Petty or Christian Hackenberg throwing that interception that you just cannot throw, then I'd be a little more forgiving. And first of all, the Jets shouldn't even be throwing in that situation. I was honestly saying that I was in my head. I was just like, well, thank God we have Todd Bowles. He's not going to push he's not going to push it forward. We've had a bad fourth quarter. Let's get out of the quarter alive. Let's go to overtime, reset the momentum, and get going. But then, Todd Bowles did something complete. And, I know he doesn't really handle the offense, but he still is that coach. I mean, that still probably has to pass through him, the fact that they're going to throw. And then you think about the risk-reward in that situation. You're on your own 10-yard line. You have 47 seconds to go, and you're throwing a 10-yard comeback route. It just doesn't make much sense. And then from Josh McCown's perspective, I mean, it was across his body. It really was not. I mean, I understand he didn't see the corner playing the flat there, but it was just, oh boy, just a rough series there. But what I was saying is,
that was a Josh.
Well, yeah, I mean, he gives. I mean, as we said, I mean, he does some great things. I mean, look at his touchdowns to ASJ and Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson and some of the other things he did. And then there's that. If that's Bryce Petty or Christian Hackenberg, and I look back on this game for them, I mean, I'm saying that's a pretty good game for them. I mean, they threw 3 touchdowns. They had a QB sneak. They threw that horrible interception that you can't throw. But for the most part, I mean, they had a really good game. But the fact that it's a 39-year-old quarterback, there's not a lot to feel good about. But I will say that I'm happy the Jets are playing well. I'm happy that, that they're at least in these games. I thought we should have won that game, but as we should have won that game. But, the other thing I'm happy about, Jamal Adams, Marcus May probably had their 2 best games, arguably. Marcus May only allowing 1 catch for 6 yards, had an interception. I mean, he's just been locked down at the free safety position, which is something the Jets haven't had since really Kerry Rhodes for a few seasons there. And then Jamal Adams, I mean, he's just flying around. I mean, we drafted a safety, but we got a linebacker, we got an outside linebacker, a free safety, a middle linebacker, a strong safety, a corner. I mean, we got everything from Jamal Adams. He had a sack. He batted that ball, forced the interception. He flew around the field, made tackles. I mean, he's just such a fun player to watch. I mean, he's really – I said when the Jets were drafting that I wanted them to draft a player that was going to change the culture. And, I wanted our Ezekiel Elliott, our Odell Beckham Jr., our Aaron Rodgers, per se. It doesn't have to be a quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Even you can look at, as far as defensive players go, Devin McCourty, I guess. Just I guess that was a bad example.
What?
I'm trying to think. Landon Collins. I'm just trying to think of big name defensive. That was the first person that came to my
J.J. Watt,
head.
Landon
Wait,
Collins.
no. Think of the secondary. I was going to say Revis, but then Revis seemed like a bad example since he had a pretty bad season with us. That was weird.
Chris
Devin
Harris
McCourty
Jr.
was the first person. Yeah, but is he really I guess he's the face of the franchise. I don't know. I'm trying to think of young.
No, Von Miller is in Denver. But if you're
Yeah, so like you have to think of young. I don't know. That's a bad example, but I guess Darrell Revis was.
Harrison Smith.
No, I don't think he's ahead
Who's
of
the face?
Dalvin Cook. And
Oh no.
well, I guess he's kind of hurt right now.
Who's the
Stephon
face of the
Diggs.
Vikings?
I would probably say Stephon Diggs then.
You think Stephon Diggs, the guy who's been there for 2 years and has played for like maybe half of that?
3 years. Third year, right? Yeah, he wasn't a rookie last year.
It might be his third year, but he's injured quite a bit.
He's not. I mean, he's injured. Okay, we're getting off topic. Anyways, I should have just gone with my gut, which said Revis. Our Darrell Revis, I guess, even though we already had one. I wanted them to draft a player that was going to change the culture, and it looks like Jamal Adams can at least do that. He brings a lot of excitement. He's a guy that people want to buy his jersey, which really the analogy I kept going to is, do you have a player before the draft and before even with free agency, you look at the Jets, and could you say there's one guy on this roster that I want to buy a jersey of? I mean, Quincy Enunwa was maybe that, but he was still largely unproven as a number one wide receiver, and then he got hurt. Bilal Powell, maybe. I mean, there was a lot of question marks, but you draft Jamal Adams, and I feel like he brings that, the jersey sales, but not just, off the field merchandise, on field production. So as far as May and Adams go, I've been very impressed with them all season long, and especially, I mean, this past Sunday they were on display. Kyle, I want to ask you, and it's the best of two riches, I guess. But I mean, if you had to say so far, and I know you're a little biased with your Florida boy, which safety have you been more impressed with, Marcus May or Jamal Adams?
Okay, you might be a little right about the bias here, but I have good reasoning behind it. I completely expect this out of Jamal Adams. I expected him to be a Pro Bowl caliber player rookie year, because that's the talent he is. And I know you're going to say, oh, Kyle, that's outrageous. And yeah, you're not wrong. But that's the standard I'm holding him to. Marcus May, playing in his 6th NFL game, is one of the better free safeties in the NFL as of right now. He is fooling veteran talent. He is rerouting guys like Jarvis Landry and Kenny Stills, which is very impressive for a rookie safety. And I'm not saying Jay Cutler's great or even good by any stance, but he's a veteran NFL quarterback who at least knows what he's doing and can identify things, and he's completely fooling him. He's making plays because of it. I mean, we saw the interception. He just looked perfectly. He read Cutler's eyes and just made the play. I mean, I did not expect that out of a second-round pick. If you remember, after we drafted him, I said I was a fan of him, but I was expecting some rookie bumps. So he's taken some big strides as a rookie. So I'm most impressed with him.
Yeah, and then the other thing you have to remember is it's not like a lot of times you'll see free safeties that are very coverage-oriented and then strong safeties that are very, in-the-box safeties, Calvin Pryor. So with the Jets, they're really getting two very versatile safeties. I mean, Jamal Adams can play free safety. He has the coverage abilities to line up and play tight ends and wide receivers in this league. Obviously, his strength isn't that, but he can still do it to a level that was better than whatever the Jets had last season and quite a bit better than the league. And as you said, he's only played, 7 games? Obviously, his strength, though, is, moving around the field doing everything. Whereas May, he can also play strong safety. I feel like he would be a very good strong safety as well. I mean, he's a terrific tackler over the middle. So he can play strong safety, and as you mentioned, his coverage abilities has been on display this season, and it's been pretty flawless. Moving around the ball, I guess, we talked a bit about Josh McCown, and we talked about the safeties. I guess we'll move to the wide receivers. Kyle, I just wanted to get your brief thoughts on how they did this past week. Obviously, Jermaine Kearse, he's not as, so after the Buffalo game, he was the most consistent receiver on that Jets team, and even the Raiders game. And I think he caught 8 balls in the Buffalo game and a pretty similar number against the Raiders. Now, he's just kind of a one-shot touchdown for the Jets. He did 1 catch and a touchdown, and that was it. He did that in the first drive, and then he didn't catch another ball the entire day. So I guess I'll start with him. Kyle, I mean, it's hard to say you're underwhelmed with Jermaine Kearse, but you would hope out of your, quote-unquote number one wide receiver that he would be getting a little more production. I mean, I'm not going to complain about if he's catching a touchdown every week, and not that he's been doing that, but if he's at least getting, he's good for one big play a week, whether that's a big play, catch over the middle or a touchdown or whatever, you can't complain about that because he's at least delivering that. But wouldn't you hope for a little more consistency? I mean, even if it's just he's catching 4 balls and 5 balls, just anything. But, I mean, 1 catch, 30 yards, 8 fantasy points. I mean, you can't complain about it, but are you expecting more out of Jermaine Kearse?
You're fantasy points as a stat. Are you kidding me?
He was on my team and I started him, so I did have to throw him in there.
That's your fault. That is your fault.
I was like, you know what, I'll take him going up against this Dolphins secondary.
I started Josh McCown.
That's not a terrible move. He had a nice game.
Yeah, I know. I mean, he's solid for 2 touchdowns a game. I was just hoping not a lot of interceptions.
Rip the Jet Take Fantasy League. 1 year and out. It'll be back next year, folks. We will get it up and running.
No.
Yes, it will.
No.
Yes, it will.
I'm saying right now it will not.
Yes, I will. Fine, I will organize it. Kyle, you don't have to be in the league. I promise next season we will have a Jet Take Fantasy Football League. We can even broaden it to other sports. We could start a... What?
This is just Ben's just trying to recoup his losses here. He's going to charge you guys like $50. It's going to be a big money league.
$200 entry, $7 prize. Yes. But Kyle, continue on the point. Jermaine Kearse, what are your thoughts?
I think he's been playing well. I mean, we don't have a number one wide receiver. I think we've all known that from the jump. Just because he is number one on the depth chart doesn't mean he's a number one wide receiver. He's a number 2, and he's a fairly productive one. In the role he's been asked to play, I think he's been doing a good job, especially with guys like Josh McCown throwing to him. So I think I'm all for keeping him. I think he, like I said, hate to be a little repetitive, but he's doing a good job. He's executing, and I've seen a huge difference in Robbie's game because of it, because they have to respect Kearse on the other side. And I'm not saying people didn't respect Quincy Enunwa, but Kearse has shown that he can beat you from every position on the field. Deep, just like as we saw it in this game, he'll just run past you. I mean, it wasn't a very explosive and speedy guy, but if he gets a step on you, he's probably going to go to the house. And then, you have to account for that, so that limits where the safety is going to roam in the middle of the field, and that opens up the middle field for, possibly 2 tight ends. We're seeing Eric Tomlinson incorporated more. ASJ, obviously, it opens up for him, and it opens up for Robbie. That play by Robbie in the middle of the field that led to the touchdown, that was due to some sort of scheme where they had to watch over the top. Now, whether it be Robbie or Jermaine Kearse, I don't know. But still, schematically, we have 2 guys that could take it over the top, and specifically Jermaine Kearse. I think he's been doing a good job at helping us.
Yeah, and you watch that touchdown. It was nothing special. I mean, Joe Blewett on Twitter does a terrific job, and I got to make sure I get out the handle as I talk about it. But he does a terrific job. It's at JoeRB31. He does a terrific job every week breaking down Jets film, and he shows that Jermaine Kearse touchdown is only big play. I mean, he was literally just nothing special besides he just outran his corner. He had a little veteran savvy push off, as Joe puts it, and that gave him the separation for 6. But besides that, I mean, I don't know. I think this wide receiving core is good enough, nothing special. But again, you have to remember they're missing Quincy Enunwa. You have to wonder how much different would it be with Quincy. They probably, would they have traded for Jermaine Kearse?
No. I don't think they would.
But then you have to think about it. It wasn't like they I don't think the Jets traded for Jermaine Kearse. It sounded more like they were trading Sheldon Richardson, and then I was like, we have a whole and then it was like, well, we have a whole wide receiver. Let's take Jermaine Kearse. So they very well could have taken Jermaine Kearse on, and then they wouldn't have signed Jeremy Curley. But it's whatever. I'm glad to see a quick side. I'm glad to see Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen getting some more reps. Chad is yet to be thrown to, but. I think Ardarius Stewart needs to be used better than he has been. I mean, you think about it. You talk about all these long shot runners that Kearse and Anderson are. I mean, Curley is really the only guy who can go over the middle. I think Stewart can really dominate in that role. The yards after catch over the middle type of receiver, throw it short, and let him do some work. I guess before we continue,
Kearse is good enough over the middle.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just saying that's not his specialty, or at least that's not his role on this team right now. And you and I were both big Ardarius Stewart fans coming out of Alabama. That I think that his role this season should be as the jet slot receiver. Now, Jeremy Curley's done a terrific job this season, So I don't think he's getting benched anytime soon, at least while the Jets are in contention and while Josh McCown's starting. But I think if Ardarius Stewart can do what Jeremy Curley does in this league, and then, hopefully take it to the next level, be a rich man's Jeremy Curley in this league, but if he can at least get to what Jeremy's doing, which isn't a small feat. Curley is a safe pair of hands, catching the ball and returning kicks. He dominates after the catch.
He almost fumbled that one.
He did almost fumble that one. But anyways, we'll briefly touch on other things, not over the course of the show probably. But the one last thing I just want to make sure we touch on is the coaching. And I wanted to get your thoughts on not just Todd Bowles, but John Morton in it. And I guess I'll start with just setting it up as far as this is the second week the Jets have blown a 14-point lead. And although very different, one was in the first quarter, one was in the fourth quarter, you have to wonder who is to blame. And the thing that I like about John Morton is,
he's the host, folks. Can't even get our offensive coordinator's name right.
Well, hey, Josh McCown might be our quarterback coach next year. But I think point. That, well, I mean, apparently you heard that story that apparently Cleveland offered him the job, but he turned it down. Look,
they probably would have started him over Deshaun Kaiser already if he would have took that job.
That would be the first time ever a coach just switched a player in the middle of the season.
Screw it, give me a number, I'll go.
He's just like trying to coach Deshaun. Just yeah, you're right. Give me a helmet. I'm gonna do this myself.
You're more of a visual learner. Let me show you how to do it. Take the ball from him.
Yeah, but bringing it back to Morton, I mean, it's like he has like spurts of brilliance. I love how he's opened up the past two games. Really, I mean, the first quarter against the Patriots was brilliant. I mean, Curley bailed him out on that one pass. But, even in this game against the Dolphins, I loved his first play call, which was a fake screen to Forte, and then he threw it to Powell, or it was the other way around, I believe. But, no, I think it was fake screen to Forte, throw to Powell. Fun little opening play. It got him 15, 20 yards. I just like his play calling. I think he's been pretty good at mixing it up as far as who he's going to and what type of plays he's calling. But it seems like he almost just runs out of ideas once he gets to the – like he sits down and scripts what he's going to do, and it works. But when he has to go impromptu based off how the game is going, it seems to get a little anemic. And you could argue that maybe it hurts the Jets, or at least this isn't his strength. And you have to remember, this is his 7th game as an offensive coordinator in the NFL, unless you want to count preseason. But even then, I mean, he's very new to this. So I'm still happy with John Morton's progress. He should know, though, as an NFL coach, you can't throw in the situation at the end of the game. But we'll ignore that for now. It seems like it's almost hurting the Jets to get into these leads because their play calling completely shifts. They don't keep the foot on the pedal. The pedal to the gas. Foot on the pedal. Foot on the gas. Yeah, foot on the gas. I knew I messed it up. But it seems like the leads are almost hurting it because at the beginning of the games when the Jets are very aggressive, that's when they're at their best. But when they're playing not to lose and instead of trying to win the game, their play calling, it becomes immediately lackluster, anemic, and the play suffers. But I wanted to get your thoughts. We'll start with Morton, I guess, and his offensive play calling. What were your thoughts on him in this game and this season?
Well, I'll go with this season because I think it's a pattern. And it's not hard to figure out, and I think this is why the Jets have been blowing these leads. Like you said, I think he literally just scripts this. I honestly think that's what he's been doing.
And that's what most offensive coordinators do, is they script the first 15, 20 plays of the game, and it's working for him.
Yeah, but and a testament to that would be Josh McCown's completion percentage, because he's not considered a very accurate individual, but he seems to be hitting on all cylinders this year, and maybe that's chemistry, maybe it's just he's got that down like the back of his hand, whatever it may be, but I would definitely say that as something to play with it. Soon as those, scripted plays, okay, we can't run that anymore. All right, they pick that up. Okay, they notice that. Okay, now Bill Belichick's making adjustments at halftime. Now what do we do? Because this is 2 weeks in a row now where we've gone against formidable opponents, talented teams. We're not going against the Cleveland Browns and Hugh Jackson. We're going against Bill Belichick. We're going against Adam Gase.
Adam Gase. I'm not as enamored with Adam Gase and Ryan Tannehill as you and Travis Wingfield are, but we'll continue.
I mean, they're good. I mean, I don't know what
I like Ryan. I think Ryan Tannehill is better than as a quarterback than I think Adam Gase is as a head coach. But I mean, I guess you could look at it where the Dolphins were. But anyways,
yeah.
I'll say this: the Dolphins were
14-3
gifted. The Dolphins were absolutely gifted this game at the end there. But it's whatever. I mean, hey, they might have won it in overtime. But I'm just going to say it wasn't Adam Gase's coaching smarts that got him the ball. It was the Jets' coaching deficiencies that got him the ball inside the 15. But
no,
whatever.
It's Josh McCown that got them the ball instead of 15. Just saying.
You could say it's Josh McCown, but who's calling that play? Who's calling a 10-yard comeback route on their own 10-yard line? You would have to assume that's John Morton.
Yeah, I expect my veteran quarterback to make that.
Oh, no. Obviously, Josh McCown deserves blame. I mean, he shouldn't throw it if it's not there. But I'm saying he shouldn't have that even on the table. They should have taken a knee or run the football. I would have been in favor of a Powell halfback draw. Just spread everybody out, run it. If he gets 10, 15 yards, then you have 3 timeouts. Then maybe you call a timeout, and then maybe you get into that type of mode. But to throw a comeback route first play, I mean, that's exactly what the defense was playing. I mean, it was just, I don't know.
I feel like it was an unfortunate call. I still think Josh McCown should have went to the dump off or maybe.
But Kyle, I mean, even ignore that call. Think about how Josh Morton called the game from the fourth quarter on. Really, that entire fourth quarter. Think about how he called that game. He was playing not to lose, and it was the same thing the Jets did against the Patriots. When the Jets got out to the 14-0 lead against the Patriots, everybody was talking, and then they got scared. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we're about to shock the world. Let's just not screw up," and they started running the football. With Forte up the middle for 2 yards, they started throwing completions that were not, of any substance. Is that a word? I think it is. Of any valuable gain. We'll go with everybody knows what I'm trying to say. They'll throw a 2-yard route to the flat to the tight end or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just instead of these 3rd and longs where Josh McCown's getting sacked, and I mean that's another point. The offensive line. I mean that's about as good as you could expect from them, right?
Johnson is a liability.
He is, for sure. But, and I think that's something.
And he's affecting Brian Winters and James Carpenter.
I think you could see the Jets move to Jonathan Harrison at some point this season. Wesley Johnson has been outright awful, but he's a little too inconsistent.
He's been horrible.
No, but Kyle, I mean, so that's a good point. With offensive linemen, when you hear their name called 3 times in a game, you're going to think they're horrible. That's the problem with and then you'll see the review, and he just falls over, and he's awful. I'm not saying, but Kyle, think about it. I agree with you that he has had his fair share of terrible moments this season. But if you watch the entirety of a game, I mean, he'll go a drive where he has a very solid drive. He just destroys whoever he's on, and then the next drive he'll give up a sack and just produces no push in the run game. That's kind of how he's been playing. He's been inconsistent, which, yes, you're right, makes for a bad offensive lineman. But it's not like he's not Wayne Hunter, who was the right tackle for the Jets in 2011, where he's just every play is a liability. With Wesley, he's very sporadic, and he's still young. He has time to learn, but I would not be surprised if the Jets go Jonathan Harrison for at some point this season, and then after the season addressing the need of center and free agency or the draft.
I don't know if I just missed it. When did Brandon Shell get a neck injury? Like I saw Brent Qualde walk out there. I was like, what's going on? I mean, what's up here?
He probably got a stinger or something. I didn't see it at all, but yes, I presume it happened on the first drive.
He didn't.
Oh, I see what you're saying. He didn't even start. Yeah, no, I have no idea. All I remember is seeing him in the second drive and being like, why is Brent Qualde out there? But you're right. I mean,
he was getting bulldozed the whole game.
Yeah, it was a liability, especially in pass protection. I think that it was probably in warm-ups or something.
Yeah, because I was like, I didn't hear anything about him being injured all week, and this is a guy I'm one of the few young players I'm actually really excited about and can honestly see him being a Pro Bowler in the future. But you just, that kind of.
He's a Pro Bowler. Really quickly before we go to, he does, especially in pass blocking. Really quickly before we go to callers, I want to get your thoughts on Bowles because we just kind of talked about Morton. But as far as Bowles goes, I mean, it seemed like
I have some beef with him, right?
So 2 weeks ago, after the Jets were coming off their win against Cleveland, there's a lot of feel-good stories about Todd Bowles, and even after the game against New England, And some would even argue after this week's game that the fact that this Jets team, you could make the argument, could be 5-2 if and a lot of ifs, ands, and buts. But if the Jets hold on their 14-point lead in overtime against Miami, and then maybe don't get that bogus call against New England, and who knows what would have happened. But it's safe to say the Jets would have at least been in a better position than they were. So the Jets easily could be 4-3, 5-2. And if you were to look at this roster or the preseason predictions of 0-16, and that this team is the worst that's ever been fielded, I mean, you have to give Coach Bowles some credit, but then it's like he just has some mental lapses. So Kyle, I guess I'll ask you, who do you blame these past 2 weeks on, the 2 14-point collapses on? And then my second question is, I mean, who do you think deserves the most credit, I guess, for the Jets, the way this Jets season has started? Although these past 2 weeks has been, has brought the Jets back down to earth, it at least shows that the Jets were in 2 games they easily could have won. And this weekend against Atlanta, coming off a 2-game losing streak, will really tell us who the Jets are. But they're playing scrappy, they're playing hard. They held with New England, who just blew out Atlanta.
Atlanta isn't a good team, by the way. I just want to make
they're not the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. I'll give you that, but it's still they are
I would be shocked if they made the playoffs. Honestly,
I think they will, but I think they'll turn it on. They'll be like the Seahawks last season that just kind of turned it on at the end. But I guess I'll give you the mic first on Todd Bowles. Just your thoughts. I mean, who deserves the blame for these last 2 weeks? Is it him? And then going back to Bowles for your second question. I mean, does he deserve the credit for the season and whatnot? What are the plans for the future for Todd Bowles?
For blame, I don't really have any major qualms with Bowles right now. There hasn't been a point this year, unlike previous years, where I was just like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you call that timeout? Why waste that challenge? That really affects the game in some shape or form. Not to cut you off, and I am. We have 10 games. I know we still have 10 more games.
Well, there's that. I mean, there's been a few instances after the Buffalo game. You and I were both on after the Jets punted 4th and 2, I believe it was.
Yeah. Down
2 possessions against Buffalo with 8 minutes to go. There was that mistake. Again, you could argue some of this play calling, and you don't know how much. And obviously, he's not calling the offensive plays. Yeah. He could be influencing them, but he's not calling the offensive plays. But his defense seems to be a little up and down. I mean, yeah, you're right. We don't know. The only thing we could really judge Bowles on as a fan from watching your televisions is clock management, really. And then, how close is the team playing together and stuff like that. And if you look at Bowles from those things, I mean, he's had a few clock management things this season, but not as many as last year. And then you look at how close the team is. I mean, the team seems to really and genuinely enjoy each other. They're playing hard. They're playing together. So, I mean, I guess, does this merit Todd Bowles returning next season? But I'll let you finish the other questions. I mean, I asked you 5 questions at once, but you're Kyle Fahey. You can handle it.
Yeah, I'm always cooking with the heat. Yeah, like I was saying, I really don't have any major beefs with Bowles this year. So far, I do think he's earned another year. The one problem that I do have with him was the Robbie comments. I hated that. I think that's bull crap. He showed passion on the final play of the game. Yeah. He was pretty pissed off that we just blew a 14-point lead and he was open on 95% of the plays and we just don't have a quarterback to get him the ball once again. Yeah, I'd probably be pretty pissed off too. Did he throw his helmet? Should he probably keep that under control? Absolutely. Don't put him out there like that. Don't put him on a little pedestal. Make him seem like, he's the circus back in town, like he's Rex Ryan. That's bullcrap, Bowles, and you know it is. Just because you don't have emotion, you're just gnawing away at other people's brains doesn't mean people can't have emotion. All right? So that was my biggest beef of the week with Bowles. You asked, does he deserve credit? His defenses have been better. I like the way he's using the safeties. I like the way he's using Adams basically everywhere. I mean, we've been seeing him taking more of a buster screen. We've been seeing him take away from buster screen a little bit, the roll and giving it to Adams, blitzing from the nickel. We've seen that a lot. We've seen him in man-to-man coverage on tight ends and wide receivers. We've seen him line up in the box. I mean, we've seen him all over. So I like how he's using that. I don't think there's ever really been a question about his just his continuity as a defensive coordinator and his creativity. And I think he's gone back to the basics. I believe, if I have this right, we're right now third in the NFL in blitzing. I want to say 46% of the time. I believe that's what it was. We were blitzing this year. We haven't really gotten a lot of results, but, the defense hasn't been atrocious this year. It's certainly better than it was last year. So I got to give him some credit for that, because even though Casey Rogers is his little puppet, he may be the defensive coordinator, Todd Bowles is the guy behind it. And I will give credit to Bowles. This team is united. For certain reasons, I don't know. I picked up on a couple things on social media. They got a couple messages going on right now, where they're really bonding over. But this team is tight, and they've really bonded around Bowles. And I don't think that's by, just a coincidence. I don't think, oh, yeah, Bowles is just a great guy. I think they believe in him, and they trust in him as a coach. It does take time to trust in a coach, and I think that was the biggest problem with veteran players like, Brandon Marshall, Sheldon Richardson, Darrelle Revis from time to time, Ryan Fitzpatrick, not being trusted by the franchise. Veterans aren't going to come into the locker room with a rookie head coach and immediately trust him, because they've been in the NFL much longer than he has and have much more experience. And, maybe rightfully so, but at the end of the day, he's your boss. So this team is buying in right now, so I got to give them some credit. I got to believe that brotherhood in the locker room has affected their play on the field, because they're holding each other accountable, and it's not like holding each other accountable with Sheldon and Brandon last year, where they're pointing fingers and crying to mom. This is, okay, you need to step up. We're going to do this man-to-man. If you're going to make a mistake, I'm going to call you out for it, and we're going to improve as a team, and we're going to get through this as a team, because this is a brotherhood, and we all have one goal, united. That's like the hashtag they've all been using. So I got to give credit to Bowles there, because I do think he's behind that.
Yeah, I think that's the team chemistry in 2015 was one of the cornerstones, I guess, of the team and the media, is how close the team was. 2016, it all really fell apart, and it seems like it's back. Guys just seem genuinely happy to be playing with each other. And then the last thing I want to add about that Robbie Anderson thing, it was so annoying. Everybody on Twitter that was just so mad at him and just, a disgrace to this franchise and reprehensible behavior. It's just, I'm happy that he's at least showing some emotion. Better than zombie Bowles on the sideline, not smiling or frowning. He's just sitting there pouting. It's like, I'm fine with Robbie Anderson slamming his helmet on the turf, frustrated that his team just blew a 14-point lead. In the fourth quarter, I'm completely fine with Robbie Anderson doing that. There's no issue, and he'll probably be benched for the first quarter or something this week, which is just absolutely bogus. Why don't you bench the 39-year-old quarterback that threw an interception that cost you the game, not the young, talented wide receiver that caught it a great touchdown, had a good game, and is emotionally upset because his team didn't come through. At least he cares. Better than all the other guys, after the game, high-fiving and taking selfies with, the opposing team, which, all these guys know each other from, or at least a good amount of them do from going to the same colleges or whatnot, but it's I'm perfectly fine with Robbie Anderson being pissed. I have no problem. It's not like he went off and
all
flipped.
The time. I don't think anybody has made the problem.
Again, you're Kyle Fahey. But it's not like he went off and flipped off all the Miami Dolphins fans or somebody compared it to the
hand up for that. Hand up, I do that. I just
oh yeah, I forget. You live in Florida.
Yeah.
And people were comparing it to the Sean Ellis thing in Seattle in 2008. Yeah, well, it wasn't even a snowball. It was just a giant pillow of ice that he just threw on a fan. It's
that's literally.
That was at least assault on a fan. No, but he picked it up with both hands. It wasn't like it wasn't a one-handed thing. It was a
he's a
human shovel.
He probably needs to him.
Sean Ellis, okay, whatever. Besides the point, I'm perfectly fine with Robbie Anderson being pissed off.
Yeah.
And then people are upset. It's he cost us 10 yards on the penalty or 15 yards.
Oh, 15 yards in a game we were going to lose in overtime.
Well, yeah, there was 20 seconds left, and you're already on your own 17-yard line. I guess.
Jets fans are the worst. I got to be honest. No, you know what? No.
Well, people who were we're so sick of this, and then not saying, and then trying to dispute that it's, this isn't the same old Jets thing, but we're sick of Robbie Anderson doing this. Look at Odell Beckham Jr. I am perfectly fine with him slamming his helmet into the kicking net because he scores 2 70-yard touchdowns the next week. I'm perfectly fine with Robbie Anderson coming out and being pissed, and hopefully he comes out this week and plays to prove something.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big.
And this was the same old Jets thing. It's not something that actively affects the team. It's not like they're thinking while they're doing it. Oh, same old Jets, here we come. It's just to blow a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, and especially when it was a tie game with 40 seconds on your own 10-yard line and you throw an interception. That's the same old Jets moment. You can't deny the existence of that scenario happening. It's one of those things that would only happen to the Jets. It's not a thing that happened. It's not like the Jets chose for that to happen. It's the same thing with New England. Get up, with a big lead. I compared that New England game to the 2014 Week 2 game against the Packers, where it's like the Jets got up to a 14-0 lead there. I think it was 21-0 actually, and then had the controversial timeout on Jeremy Curley's touchdown, and I don't know. I'm so sick of everybody just trashing Robbie Anderson and then not showing the same amount of disgust over how this team played in the fourth quarter.
And what I hate most about the Robbie thing is like all these, older gentlemen who, don't know creativity and, have their khakis tucked into their sweater vest and, their Sperry's all nice and clean, who are writing these articles and, tweeting in perfectly grammatically correct sentences on Twitter.
I love you're going to attack grammar.
Yeah, I have to here.
Yeah, because this is a personal issue for you.
Yes.
Mr. Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
What was your graphic last year? Fire Bowles?
Yeah, that was an unfortunate autocorrect.
It was funny, though. Anyway, sorry, continue. We got to get to these callers, so just continue with and then we're to the next one with the callers. But
least favorite part about this is people forgot that, Robbie scored a touchdown. That he just beat his guy, broke the coverage. People forget that because of that one little helmet toss. So Todd Bowles can say what he wants. Oh, he's being immature. Oh, he's never going to do that again. Like he's blackmailing Robbie Anderson. Like, oh, yeah, you're never going to do that again. Even though that dude was, like, arguably your best receiver all game.
He is your best receiver. Robbie Anderson is the only guy on the receiving core, besides Quincy Nunwa, if he comes back fully healthy, that I would take, if I had to start a new franchise and I could only pick one Jets receiver. I don't know what situation this would ever come up in, but I would take Robbie Anderson. We'll go to the callers. Get 2 on the line right now. We'll start with Alex since he was on first. So, Alex, you're on the show. How's it going, man?
Hey, guys. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for coming on. We're all right. Blowing 2 14-point leagues back-to-back weeks is not fun. But, Alex, I'll just open it up pretty broad. Just what are your overall thoughts from this? Yeah, okay. I knew you were going to make a broads and Atlanta joke or something, Kyle. But, Alex, I just wanted to get your overall thoughts on the Jets versus the Dolphins this past weekend.
Really, really tough loss that we had to endure there. Like you guys said it all, and everybody saw it. We blew a big lead in the fourth quarter, and that's what the Jets need to learn to be a complete team. Coming out. Which is kind of interesting. We struggled coming out with energy and passion in the beginning of games, and then we always seem to catch fire in the second half. Now we seem to be getting on the right pace early, but we're not finishing out games in the fourth quarter. So, their young players are beginning to develop, and and even veterans as well that still need to learn how to clean up penalties and things. They have to learn to be a sound football team. You have to be complete with what you do, and even in times when the pressure's on, that's when guys have to, really execute what their game plan is and what their scheme is. And, obviously you could see that we haven't been in those types of scenarios a lot, so maybe it's just the inexperience for these players being in these situations where we're, up by 14 points and, we have to protect a lead. But, at the end of the day, I liked one of the things Todd Bowles said. You have to have a killer instinct at the end of the game, and you got to finish teams off. You got to put that nail in the coffin. And, they've yet to do it, and that's something that they're going to need to learn to do, and they've got a tough road ahead. So, hopefully they're going to show progression and still be competitive in the next following weeks, because the competition is going to get tougher and tougher as we go.
Yeah, Alex, and I completely agree with you about that killer instinct comment. The one thing This is going to get a lot of flack. But the one thing I actually liked about Rex Ryan, and true or not, is after every game, if it was a loss, he would take all of the blame. And then if it was a win, he would give all the credit to the players. And, whether it was blatantly obvious or not, he always did that. And you could argue whether it was fake or not. But I appreciated that as a coach, he was shielding his players from stuff. I mean, when Todd Bowles says, well, you got to have the killer instinct, it's like, well, yeah, how about your offensive coordinator throw, like that play call went right through you to throw a comeback route on your own 10-yard line. How about that for killer instinct, Todd? I mean, I would have liked to seen Todd take a little more blame in his play calling, in his offensive coordinator's play calling, or saying I shouldn't have allowed that play call, or I should, because even after that Buffalo game, when they punted on 4th and 2, he's just like, well, I would have done it again. It's like, as a head coach, you have to admit when you're wrong, or you have to take blame. And I've literally never seen Todd Bowles take an ounce of blame his entire time. That doesn't mean he's outright criticizing his players, but to say, well, they have to have a killer instinct. Like, it's almost like he's removing himself and distance. And maybe I read the quote wrong. I mean, that's not how he meant it, but it's almost like he's just distancing himself from the rest of the team. It irks me. I think he's right. I think that is the right term for an analyst to say, but as a head coach, you have to have the killer instinct to have better clock management, or to have better – I mean, I know Todd Bowles didn't call that play call, but again, he is the head coach. He knew what the play call was. To have the killer instinct to say, whoa, we should be running the ball or kneeing it. We haven't had a good fourth quarter. Let's take it to overtime. It's just, let's reset, and, it's just, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of him saying, well, we got to have the killer instinct. You got to have the killer instinct first.
What he's also saying is that he's also saying that these guys have to have a competitor's instinct, because if you've ever been out there in a situation like that and you know that you're only disservicing yourself and your teammates if you're not going 110% for whatever that play is, if you're tired, or if you feel like, okay, this time I'm not going to press as much, and I'll take a few yards off and just play man off coverage. You can't have that doubt. You can't have the slightest bit when you're in a situation like that. And, even teams like Miami, who came back on us. I mean, the following week it was one of the better quarterbacks that we've probably ever seen in our lives. But this week, it's absurd that this team couldn't finish it out. And, I'm a little ticked with Josh McCown, to be quite honest with you. I've seen him do some really good things, but I agree with Robbie Anderson's frustration last week. There are times where Robbie and other wide receivers have been, in zone, they're playing zone coverages and they're wide open and he's missing the targets. And I know that he's done a good job with his completion ratio and getting to the checkdowns and getting the ball in certain times where they need to be, and he's made plays. I'm going to tip my cap to him. But I've also seen pocket hesitation. I've also seen him not throw the ball away when he's supposed to, and he'll take a sack. And we've seen that, and that's something that we were complaining about with quarterbacks like Bryce Petty and Christian Hackenberg, and saying they were inexperienced, and that's why they're doing those things. Well, this guy's 38 and been in the league probably longer than I've been alive. So, even, the perfect combed hair Josh McCown has shown glimpses of poor quarterback play in certain times, and we've seen it in clutch times. And, hey, is it a mystery that this guy with one of the worst quarterback records, in the last 10 years is losing games in the fourth quarter? No, it shouldn't be that big of a surprise at all.
Can I say that I hate Josh McCown's hair? He looks like the guy from Rocky. Hey, I don't like that hair.
The guy from Rocky.
Vlad Kilmer? Is that his name? Is that the actor?
Val Kilmer?
Vlad Kilmer?
Oh, the guy. I thought you were talking about the actor. Well, Kyle, I mean, while we have you chiming in and contributing, I want to get your thoughts on, and Alex, by the way, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that the Jets, as I said, I agree that the Jets don't have that killer instinct. I agree that it extends to the coaching staff, that offensive coordinator John Morton doesn't have it, know how to call a game when he's in the lead. We haven't seen him be able to call a game. I mean, think about it. When the game against Jacksonville, they ended up winning. Really the only time he ever protected a lead well was against the Dolphins the first time. But even then, I don't know.
It was a blowout.
It was a blowout. It wasn't even
and I just think, but I just want to put a pin in the scripting aspect that you guys were talking about before, and seeing how his quarterback play changes when it's not like, the first 15 or 20 plays that they've been practicing for the last 3 days in a row for, and they have to call plays on the whim, and he has got to make more decisions at the line. So it's interesting to see the first half and the second half with him. But, Kyle, what's your point?
Kyle, do you agree that with Todd Bowles, like, what's your take on Todd Bowles saying the Jets need a killer instinct? Because my point of view is I didn't like him saying that, but I agree with that the Jets lack that killer instinct. I just didn't think he should be taking it. I don't think he takes any blame. But Kyle, we wanted to get your input on this whole topic because we know you've just been scrolling through Twitter. But please chime in.
I've been Snapchatting. You got one of those, but
it was a middle finger, but okay.
Yeah, thought it was fair. I found it funny coming from Todd Bowles saying, like, you need a killer instinct when he's, like, I don't know, the equivalent to, like,
a zombie.
No, like a Montauk chocolate chip cookie. I mean, you know what you're getting out of him. I mean, nothing special, nothing phenomenal. You're just a plain chocolate chip cookie every time. And to say you need a killer instinct out of the team, you know, for the first half is definitely showing it. They're stepping on their throats, but yeah, he's right. Just coming from him, it's funny. I guess it's necessary. I don't have a problem with him saying it, but he should not be the individual saying that. I would have rather seen, you know, Josh McCown say that.
I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating. Well, Alex, let's move on here from just Todd Bowles and his killer instinct. I guess we'll move. We haven't. What'd you say?
Lack thereof.
Yeah, well, true. Alex, I wanted to get your thought on Darron Lee and his emergence the past few weeks. I think he's been under a lot of heat, you know, from his. It's Darron Lee. He's explicitly stated his name was Darron Lee.
He's not earned his name.
He's not earned his name. Okay,
it's
Clay.
Like earning your pinstripes. I mean, you just got.
Kylie, I'll call you Kylie. Okay, Kylie. Because you haven't earned your name, Kyle.
You know what your name is on Snapchat? You know what your name is on Snapchat?
What?
Do you know what your name is on Snapchat?
I do know my name is on Snapchat. It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Alex, but yeah, Darron Lee has been under quite a bit of criticism from his freshman year all the way through this season. But the past few weeks, it seems like he's kind of turned a corner. I mean, maybe that's just schematically the Jets are using him better. Maybe all the criticisms got to it and he's just playing loose. But I mean, it seems like he's actually turned a corner as play call. And I will note that every time they cut to him on the field, he looks so angry. It's unbelievable. Kyle, have you seen it every time? It was right before they showed him right before Demario Davis' sack on the Dolphins, when the Dolphins second to last drive. And they cut to Darron Lee in his face. I mean, he looked like he wanted to murder somebody, which is a good thing. I like it. He plays so angry. But what were you saying?
He's all angry until he sees Leo, and then he backs up immediately.
Okay. But Alex, I like the joke, but okay.
That joke?
I laughed, but okay. Anyways, Alex, I wanted to get your thoughts on Darron Lee and how he's played the past few weeks.
You know, he's really, really come on, and I'm glad to see that, you know, we're talking more positively about him because, you know, first-round picks always get scrutinized really, really hard, and, you know, there's that 50-50 bust ratio out of every first-round pick, and, you know, it definitely seemed like maybe, you know, we got a sour grape, as you might say. But, you know, from what we've seen the last few weeks is that, you know, we've already known that he has speed, but he's starting to, you know, blitz more effectively and disrupt plays in the backfield. He, you know, is not getting beat as much in coverage. And, you know, right now I don't know if maybe they're using him a little less in coverage and more for run support and blitzing, which is probably a better idea for him because he does struggle in certain coverage schemes. But, you know, on the times that he has had to cover, he's, you know, been in position and he's played well. And, you know, last week, 2 weeks ago, I would agreed with that unnecessary roughness on the quarterback. But last week I thought that was clean, and I think he should have gotten the sack. He squared up. He hit him right in the chest. He had his head on the guy's shoulder. You know, I don't know. Maybe he just demolished him too hard. I don't know what you want to say on that play when a guy's going full speed like that. So I still think he's playing really, really good football. And I just hope that it just continues to progress because, you know, At this point, we need players to, start raising to their ceilings and showing more promise if this is going to be a competitive football team moving forward.
No doubt. Kyle, what are your thoughts on Darron Lee? Or Darron Lee for you?
I think I'm going to give him Darron. I think I'm going to meet him halfway because he has improved. He's halfway towards his pinstripes. So he's almost there. Keep this up for the rest of the season. I'll start calling you Darron, if that's what you like to be called. But I think he needs to be off the edge. I think Alex said it a little bit there. I think he's most productive there. Coverage, he's gotten better. I will say that, which is good because you still need to cover as a weak side linebacker. But I would like to see him more off the edge where he can utilize his speed and athleticism because, in this game he was showing that he could get some pressure, that he can navigate through the line a little bit. He had some bend to him. His hips were flexible. So those are good signs. That's stuff you can work with. Kevin Green hasn't produced much as an outside linebacker coach. I would like to see Darron Lee, work with Kevin Green.
Yeah, and we were very vocal about him playing the 4-3 outside linebacker position. Alex, let's move on a bit. We'll go to the defensive line, I guess. We were choosing our position group, but I guess we'll go to the defensive line. Muhammad Wilkerson and Leonard Williams had a bit better of a game than they did last week. It seemed like the defensive line was getting pressure on Matt Morris / Jay Cutler pretty much all game long. Alex, what were your thoughts on the defensive line and how they played?
I think they played with a lot better tempo this week, and, we did see some good plays. We knocked the quarterback out of the game. Unfortunately, did we know that the backup was going to blow up? But, I guess sometimes players don't read, the news clippings and listen to the radio. I think something fell on Mo Wilkerson's ears this past week because I think he played with a lot more hustle and intensity this week. And, number 33 set him up with a nice interception there, too. So, he's a leader, and we definitely need Mo Wilkerson to take this game and, build off of it and continue to be the player that, we are paying him $18 million a year. So this is kind of what we need Mo to do. And, it's unfortunate that Leo Leonard Williams right now is not really healthy. It looks like that wrist injury is, that's kind of your bread and butter there. You have to get inside contact, and it's all about leverage, and you use your hands. So, it's kind of hard to do if you're only like 50% with your attack game. So hopefully, Leo, can figure out a way to start being more effective. But I do like what I've seen from McClendon, another guy that brings a lot of leadership to this team. And what I was kind of wondering when people are saying, if Mo's hurt, we should probably sit him. I was thinking about maybe, rotating in Mike Pennell or, Anthony Johnson, because these are guys that, they're big-bodied guys. They're good against the run. And who knows, young, hungry guys that are, want to compete for a starting position will give a little bit more, each play. So, maybe we should start, getting into a healthier rotation since our superstars are not exactly healthy and playing, to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, I agree. Kyle, your brief thoughts on the defensive line.
Yeah, I know boss man Joe is going to be mad at me for this, but I don't have a problem with them this year. Yeah, I mean, he's the boss. I think Leonard Williams is playing well. Whether sacks or quarterback pressures are really showing it, I care about him being disruptive. I said this a lot last week. If he's disruptive, which he is, because you have to double and triple team him almost every time, that creates other opportunities for other players. We saw it with Muhammad Wilkerson this game. I believe he had 3 quarterback hurries, if I remember correctly. Ben, you might want to stat check me on that because that could be completely made up. I honestly don't know. But it opens it up for other people. And when you have a talent like Muhammad Wilkerson, who whether he's trying or not, it's going to make a difference. That opens it up for the linebackers. It opens it up for anybody else who is coming through. So I'm not completely upset with the defensive line play, or specifically Leonard Williams' play, who seems to be taking a lot of heat, especially from a lot of these beat writers who love to point out he only has 1 sack in like the past 25 games, or something like that. What was it? It was like, I don't know. It was a double-digit game. And I understand that for a top 10 pick, you want more sacks, but you also have to understand he's a defensive tackle who is doubled and triple teamed by offensive linemen 82% of the time. Ben's getting notifications because he's got...
Yeah, why? I don't understand why that's going out to... It should be to my headphones because I can hear you through my headphones, but... Sorry, continue, Kyle. My apologies.
Ben's not technology savvy. But,
I am. It should... Oh, I'm stupid. Yeah. Okay, wait. Yep. Yeah, I'm stupid. All right, now it's good. No, it's good.
Yep. Oh. Well, you didn't pick up on the joke. But, I'm okay with the defensive line play, especially if Muhammad Wilkinson's going to play like that every week. Just shoot him up with whatever you shot him up with this week, and it looks like 100%.
Oh, my God. He's got a racehorse. Jesus.
I mean, for the type of money we're paying him.
All right, well, Alex.
Catch some heat for that one.
You deserve the heat that you're about to catch. We're going to quote that and put it as our pinned tweet.
Yeah.
Alex, last question. I guess, the Jets have dropped 2 straight, fallen to 3 and 4. How long do you think the leash is on, I'm going to give you 2 people, Josh McCown? Okay. It's Josh McCown. We'll start with him. How soon do you think that they would make the switch to Bryce Petty?
Gotta rethink your second person.
I'm glad you brought that up because this has been something that's been on my mind for the last couple weeks. I mentioned it last week on Twitter, and I got trolled by a bunch of people, and some people disagreed with me, and I agreed. I understand a lot of people's point, and at this point we're almost this is week 8 coming up.
Yeah, we're going to be halfway through the season. Hey, that's a good reminder.
Yeah,
that's a good reminder. Next week's show, we're going to be doing mid-season awards. So tune in.
Oh,
anyways,
all right.
Alex, keep going.
Very exciting. So,
to me.
Well, get ready, Kyle.
Yeah, Adam Schefter.
But and I'm just wondering, the same question. At what point in time are we going to make this switch? Because we all knew going into this that the 38-year-old veteran quarterback was not going to be the future of this team. And, everyone was expecting to see one of the 2 young quarterbacks in preseason, be the next Broadway Joe. So, fantasy pipe dreams, I guess, for some people.
Yeah.
But at this point, when we always talk about this, developing our young players and letting them go and take their licks so that, they can improve. Well, doesn't that include the quarterback positions as well? And, we have a 4th-round pick from 3 years ago that showed a little moxie at the end of the preseason, and then he got, an unfortunate injury that set him back. Hackenberg, we know that he struggled mightily. But still, at this point, we don't know what they can do in a live game. So at some point in time, we have to go find that out. And, I know that the tank squads out there, they want to keep McCown in there, or they want to go to other, straight to Hackenberg and, so that they can get a top 5 draft pick next year. And then, that's fine if you want to think that process. But, I think that we're a few weeks away from seeing, I think, if it doesn't happen by week 11, which I believe is our bye week, it should definitely happen, come week 12 or week 13, so the last month of football, we're seeing, one of these younger guys play and get some reps, because it would be a disservice to them at this point not to let them get in some games.
No, for sure. And then, Alex, my second person for you is Todd Bowles. Obviously, he bought himself arguably some time, after winning a first few games in the middle there, going on a 3-game win streak. But what do you think Todd Bowles has to do to stick around at the remainder of the season? Or has he already won?
To stick around, to be honest with you, I think he's coming back for next year. I know a lot of people want to see him go. I think he signed like a 4-year deal, and I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to get his 4 years. And then the worst case scenario for the people that want him fired is that the Jets are good next year. And then he gets an extension. I guess that would be a nightmare for some. But he would really have to have the wheels like fall off this wagon. And one of the comments you said before about Robbie Anderson, how he'll never do that again. Well, we know how it is with another wide receiver on the other side of New York that has tendencies to act emotional, and, he, is like, the clown of the organization, not just with his hair. We're talking about Odell here, if anyone hasn't picked it up. But
hey,
I don't think that's the type
I
of
thought we were
team
talking
that
about
he
Sterling
wants to run.
Shepard.
Yeah.
Roger Lewis.
Wait. This isn't Brandon Marshall?
Yeah. Well,
He's bad ever since he grew out his hair.
The big laugh is, we were supposed to be the circus this year, so haha. But, with Todd Bowles, I don't think he's done enough to get fired at this point. And, if we continue to lose games in the fourth quarter and he's making poor decisions and he's burning timeouts and he's doing things that make me want to rip my eyes out, then that's a different story. But if they continue to stay around 500 or just below 500 and show that they're a competitive football team, I don't see how he gets fired.
Yeah, I think that's a very sound take right there. I happen to agree. The other thing people don't really take into effect when they think about, a coach moving on from a coach and whatnot is just the camaraderie and the continuity you've built with that coach, the players in the locker room having to learn a new system and get used to a new guy, and it is easier on the coach or on the players, to stay under the same guy, to stay under the same leader, to have that, okay, we've been doing this for 4 years now. We understand what the drill is. It's not something new. We're already ahead of a lot of teams that way if we have the same head coach year in and year out. The problem is if you have a perennial loser as a head coach who's continually costing you games, then that's time for a change. But otherwise, I think the Jets will probably hang on to him. Alex, lastly, predictions for this weekend. What type of game do you think it'll be? Who do you think will win and why?
Oof, hopefully this is like one of the weird weeks where the Jets, make Vegas happy, because I'm sure a lot of people will be betting against us. And if we somehow go out and surprise and win, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people in survivor pools and other things like that that'll be very upset. At this point, any given Sunday, hopefully Atlanta's not too ticked off from, getting their butts kicked last week by the Patriots. And I think this is in their house, right?
No, it's
playing in Atlanta.
No, this is in
the home game. Speaking of which, I forgot to. No, it's the home game for the Jets.
Plug tickets.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot to plug the tickets at the beginning of the show. I guess we'll plug it at the end.
Wow, that's terrible of me. Well, the fact that we're home, that gives us a little bit of an advantage, because I was going to say that I think Atlanta has a very, very good record at home in Atlanta. So, at this point, if we have the home crowd on our side and, we won't, get a good hot start like we've had in the past and finish a game out for heck's sake, maybe we can keep a game close and try to take one away here. But I don't know, after the last 2 weeks, these guys really got to show something come this Sunday to prove that they're for real.
All right. Well, Alex, thank you for coming on the show. Really quickly, give out your social media.
All right. Thanks again for having me on, guys. Always a pleasure. You can follow me at Rufio_187.
All right, sweet. Alex, good to hear from you as always. Always bring the smart and intelligent takes, and you're able to just keep moving forward when Kyle and I are just totally disrupting you. But thanks for calling in, and we hope to hear from you next week.
Right on, fellas. Let's go Jets.
All right, that was Alex. I guess we'll just move ahead with the callers. We have one more on the line right now, and Kyle, I think this is one of your favorite callers. I guess we'll just bring him on.
I'm
Scott
from
UFM. I guess so. This is Scott from Play Like a Jet podcast. Scott, how you doing, man?
Ben, how are you? I wanted to ask you guys something. I called in for two reasons. The first one is I wanted to know, do either one of you want to buy a Lorenzo Malden pool table by any chance?
Oh.
I think it was a beer pong table, but
yeah, it was a beer pong table.
Oh, ping pong table. I apologize.
No,
either way, I want to see if you want to buy one. I have it at 75% off. And the second question is, how are you guys doing? I know you guys are needing some counseling, and I know you guys are tight budget-wise, so I want to call up and just make sure that my favorite married couple isn't ready to kill each other yet.
Funny.
We're getting there.
We've already had a counselor before. No joke.
Yeah, no, we haven't.
Well, whoever that counselor is needs to be fired because
Scott,
clearly
no,
there's still issues.
It needs to be you, Scott. Kyle and I just fundamentally just disagree on so much.
All right, for the people who don't know, because this was kind of a Twitter thing, I'm assuming most of the listeners don't know about this because, believe it or not, somehow people find our podcast about Twitter. Guess we're just that good, guys. Congrats. Air high five.
Definitely not us being good, but okay.
All right. Well, there's money go. Ben.
Alrighty. All right. Keep going.
TOJ has a post-game pod hosted by myself and Scott, and Ben wanted to make a guest appearance, and I promptly said no.
Yeah, Kyle just curved me, and it's not like Kyle even had the power to do that. The thing that I was offended by is it was Scott. It was on Play Like a Jet, Scott, and you didn't chime in once to say, you know what, Ben, we have too many people on, or you know what, you could call. There was nothing from Scott, just dead end. And I know Scott and Kyle were DMing themselves, but Scott, I'm really kind of offended. But it's whatever. Kyle and I have our issues. Well, we've had our issues since our marriage.
Yeah. Ben, to be honest with you, what it boiled down to was we already had Travis Wingfield agreed to come on to talk about things from the Dolphins side of perspective, and quite frankly, he did a great job. Travis is awesome. Can't wait to have him back on. Although, at this point, the Jets are done with the Dolphins, so who knows, maybe next season, right, Kyle? But the other one that we had already scheduled to come on.
Playoffs, baby.
Yeah, there you go. Joe Blewett from Jet Nation Radio had agreed to come on and talk a little X's and O's. So we had two people, and you wanted to come on, and so Kyle said he didn't want you to come on because we had too many guests already, and it was going to take too much time. And
but I don't know when Kyle got that permanent post-game gig. It was a little fishy.
Well, no, to be honest with you, dude, I was fine with you coming on it, but the thing was, I didn't want to hear Kyle argue about it for an hour, so I just like, all right, whatever. Yeah. You don't want Ben to come on. I don't feel like sitting here for an hour. I got other things to do on a Sunday, so that's basically what it boiled down to.
Yeah, I'll hand up. I just didn't want Ben on. I just didn't want. I'll be honest. I just didn't want to talk to you because I know we were just gonna argue, and we had people on the show coming on. I just didn't want to talk to you. Hand up. I mean, Scott. I'm sure Scott would have been okay with having you on, but that was just a me call.
I'm filing divorce papers tomorrow. I get the show on the weekend.
I'm getting half your money. I mean, you're significantly richer than I am.
I get the show on the weekends, Kyle. You get it on the weekdays. I guess let's do this.
Wait. So I have to bring him to school?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Come on. Show. Okay.
No, you can have the kid.
Anyways, no. Scott, I don't know what rabbit hole you just sent us down. Yeah. This is getting a little weird.
God help me with the two of you. I really am going to have to call in every week and do live therapy sessions on this show, it sounds like.
The amount of things, the amount of beef.
It would be a great segment. Like, this is content.
I guess it is. Kyle has slighted me quite a bit here. It's very, very genuine anger between the both of us, but it's fine. Kyle and I get along well enough. It's like brothers. Brothers have friends, or brothers have fights. It's just you have to deal with it. But Scott, I guess we'll keep moving. Again, I asked the same question to Alex to open up. Just your overview and thoughts on everything that happened. I know you guys had your post game powwow, but if you could you summarize for the rest of us the Jets Dolphins game over the weekend?
Wait, Ben, you're saying you didn't listen?
I did not listen. I did not listen because I was not a part of it, and I only listen to Scott's show when Kyle's not on it.
So you've listened.
Fair enough. You get your fill of Kyle on this show, I guess.
I get my fill of Kyle throughout the week. Yes, I can overdose.
You talk like 10 minutes before the show. It's like, all right, so
we talk maybe 3 times a week, and it's like 3 text messages. But anyways, Scott,
and it's
continue.
like usually him being like, he's either yelling at me or begging for something, or
it's always just Kyle. You need to do this.
Oh, really?
No,
because you didn't do it.
Actually, this past week, this was on me. I forgot to upload it. I will own that. I will own that. For one of the first times in the history of the Jet Take, I forgot to upload. I own that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
And I covered for him.
Yes.
You guys are too much, man.
1 to 20. All right, Scott. Anyways, we were trying to get this question out. Your thoughts on Jets versus Dolphins game?
Well, as you said, Ben, I gave my thoughts mostly in the post-game reaction. I had a little bit of time to cool off and digest. My thoughts haven't changed all that much. I thought Todd Bowles did a really bad job at the end there. They didn't protect the lead well. It was one of those things where they just took their foot off the gas pedal and thought that with a 14-point lead it was in the bag. And on defense, they just relaxed a lot. They let Matt Moore go straight down the field and score what amounted to 17 points in the fourth quarter. It was a bad performance at the end. They did score 28 points, and this is the first team to do that against the Dolphins all season, strangely enough, considering that the Jet offense is not exactly a juggernaut or anything like that. There were some positives that we saw, the usual stuff where McCown will have a couple of decent plays that amount to something. There was the touchdown to Curse, the touchdown to Anderson. Obviously, Anderson open a lot all day, but McCown just – it's not – the funny thing about it is not that McCown has a rocket arm or anything, but McCown can throw downfield. It's not that he can't reach Anderson. It's more that he just doesn't see Anderson because he doesn't process things and have that field vision.
Too much headspace. It limits his peripheral vision. So that's the reason he can't hit him.
Yeah, the deal with him is really there's a reason why he's been on 8 teams, including the Dolphins, as Travis joked about. He was on that pre-Parcells 1-15 team. He was there in camp. But really, the Jets are kind of who we thought they were, if I may paraphrase Dennis Green. This is
we
kind
have
of
that
what...
soundbite. Hold on. One of our 3 soundbites. Let me find
it.
It's without... There it is.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
Very poorly timed, but anyways, continue.
Hey, listen, it's live radio. You know, that's really what it is, though, is that this Jets team is a team that we thought could hang in there with the bad teams, maybe even beat a couple, but against the good teams they would wilt. I don't know that the Dolphins are a great team or anything, but it's not really that surprising that this happened or that they're 3-4. And as I said when I was with Kyle on the post game, it was never super shocking that they had won 3 games, only in the sense that they weren't really beating anybody good. The Dolphins were miserable that first time, and it was at home. The Jaguars game, which they almost blew, was no good. And the Browns, I mean, look, it took a second-half comeback to win that game, and the fact that the Browns basically did everything but hand it to them. So the Jets are a team that they're going to kind of hang around, but a lot of these games are just not going to win because when it comes down to crunch time, they just don't have the firepower to get it done. And Todd Bowles, like I said, calling a lot of the defensive prevent stuff, that just is no good, especially when you're a team that needs to stay aggressive on defense. I mean, you really should regardless, but they needed to stay aggressive. And Josh McCown, listen, I don't care what his quarterback rating is or his completion percentage. You make that throw in that situation. You've been in the league that long. He's been in the league since I think Kyle could barely even say words at the point that Josh McCown got into the league. Now, of course, things have changed.
Right now, so that means nothing.
I was going to say, that's obviously changed since Kyle says plenty of words now. But
yeah, Kyle was
really,
1 year old. 1 year old when Josh McCown entered the league. I was 2.
Ben, you were 2. Okay. Ben tries to make it sound like he's...
No, I was saying you first because...
11 months and, like, what is it?
Obviously, no, I have a full year and 3 days. You're April 30th, 2001. I'm April 27th.
I'm stupid.
Yeah. Okay, anyways, continue.
Yeah.
My God, how old I feel right now. But, yeah, it's one of those things where McCown is who we thought he was, to go back to Dennis Green again. And Kyle on the post-game podcast said Bryce Petty should play. That's not going to happen. I mean, I'd like to see it. Not that I think Bryce Petty is going to be anything special, but at this point, whatever. The problem is that Todd Bowles and the coaching staff is going to do what coaching staffs do, and that is try to win every single game. And they're still going to view Josh McCown, and perhaps correctly, as their best chance to win these games, even if we think that maybe Bryce Petty is the guy that, for the long haul, you want to try him out to see if maybe he could be the long-term backup to whoever the quarterback ends up being next year, or maybe you want to see Hackenberg at some point and see if he really is a sunk cost. But these guys, as long as they're still mathematically in the hunt, they want to win games especially, and they're going to put the guys out there that they think give them the best chance to win from week to week. And right now, McCown, to them, is probably that guy. He's still probably the best quarterback on this roster, which is kind of a sad statement. But those are my thoughts going forward, is the quicker that we can accelerate this to the point where instead of watching Josh McCown play, I'm watching Petty or Hackenberg, and the quicker that I can see Matt Forte not play, although he had a handful of decent plays on Sunday, the quicker that I can just see the young players try to develop and play, that's really what I was looking for all season. And I think a lot of people got fooled by the Jets winning those 3 games in a row, and all of a sudden we had this stuff about, oh, you tankers are so dumb. Look at how good the Jets are. How could you root against the Jets or not want the Jets to win, or whatever it was, the motives that were ascribed to the people that said, hey, there might be some value in some Jet losses. And that's where we're at now. We'll see. They're 3-4. They lose to Atlanta, which I fully expect, because Atlanta's a desperate team and certainly a better team than the Jets. If the Jets lose and they're 3-5, the Jets will still probably try to talk themselves into the fact that they have a chance to do something, which they don't. The fan base will continue to fight itself because you have those people that it would be week 16 and the team is 1-14 or something like that. And you'll hear people still say, oh, the Jets need to win, or I'm rooting for the Jets to win, when obviously it would be better for them to lose at that point and secure a draft pick. So that's where we're headed down the stretch of the season. As for now, I don't know. I guess just watch the games and try to enjoy certain players. You talked about, as Kyle would say, Darron Lee, because he didn't earn his name. That's Kyle's big line, I think.
We're calling him Darron now. I'm meeting him halfway. It's Darron.
He's halfway there. But Darron Lee, despite some really boneheaded penalties and still being really bad in pass coverage, has played a lot better. And you guys touched on it before, I think. He needs to be used on the outside a lot more. Dalton Osorio said that before the season. It looks like he was right. He's a smaller, quicker guy, so it makes sense that you would use him on the outside more. Buster Screen, for the love of God, enough with him already. Just, I don't care how bad some of these other guys.
Ben, roast them. Go.
I went off on Buster Screen 3 weeks ago.
Just roast them.
Just do it. And then he played well. And then on this show, we complimented him for it. And now he's back to being utter garbage. He is the worst football player in the National Football League. Get him off the team. I do not want to see him on the field. He's awful. I would rather start a crusty napkin. Ooh. He's horrible.
If I may steal Kyle's line, we can call him Daryl Screen because he hasn't earned the nickname Buster at this point. We can call him by his first name, Daryl.
Just call him Bust. He's a bust of a signing. Michael Cagnon should just cut him right now. Put him on IR.
Who would have thought that a guy who was so heavily penalized and burned as a slot corner in Cleveland would have been this much of a problem?
You know what's the best thing? You know what's the best thing is I'm going to roast him and he's going to play well next week. That's the funny part.
He's going to shut down Julio Jones next week. Watch. Just watch Julio Jones is going to be combined 1 reception for like 26 yards.
I was over exaggerating a bit, but oh my gosh, Buster Screen. I mean, like, play Justin Burris over him. Play Darryl Roberts over him. Up until Xavier Coleman got hurt, play Xavier Coleman over him.
Ben. He'll be in New York. Tryouts are open, baby.
I'll be in New York this weekend. Come on, sign me up, Todd.
Ben, in New York, are you gonna?
Central New York, not New York City, but okay, visiting Syracuse, but.
Oh, you're visiting Syracuse, huh? My old stomping grounds. Well, say hi to everybody up there for me, and make sure you make a trip to Wegmans.
Wait, did you go to Syracuse?
You need to.
Brief biography about Scott. Did you go to Syracuse? Because I'm confused. You went to Hofstra.
I went to Syracuse for a year and then transferred to Hofstra.
I see. Okay. So where do I need to go, Scott?
Yeah, tell which bars Ben won't get invited to, so he knows what to
a little bit from column A. I believe Ben and I are going to have a chat in a couple days. He was asking about some stuff with Hofstra, so we'll talk about that. But, yeah, man, it's funny. After the game, I got a bunch of texts from people, and a couple of them were saying, Todd Bowles needs to go. I don't trust him to develop anybody, this and that. I said this last week. on the post-game podcast, and I'll say it again now. I'm a fair man. Todd Bowles has till the end of the season to prove that he should be the guy beyond this year. Right now, I'm kind of in limbo on him. I've seen some good, some bad, but do I trust him? Look, who knows who the quarterback's going to be? It's funny. You guys talked about cursing people. I was talking up Brett Hundley and saying, hey, he can play. Watch him in Green Bay. Here's a guy that's going to be going into the last year of his contract next year. Obviously, Green Bay's not going to pay him because they have Aaron Rodgers. So if he plays well the rest of the year, there's a guy that the Jets could potentially pursue, and he goes out there and has a miserable game. Look, it was only one game, so we'll see. But Brett Hundley's a possibility. Joe Caparosa's talked about Jacoby Brissett. I'm a little less excited about him.
Whoa. I will say this, Scott. Since you're on, I mean, it seems like when Scott comes on, we talk about the future. And Kyle, I'll throw this out there as well. How realistic is it that the Jets could make a play for Andrew Luck?
No.
No, are you saying it's not realistic from the Colts end or from our end?
Look, if the Colts made him available, fine. But if the Colts are making Andrew Luck available, there's something very, very wrong because the guy's 28 years old, and he's clearly one of the best 5 to 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. So the only reason you're making – and he's signed, by the way – the only reason you're making him available is because there's something very, very wrong with him physically. So
well, I mean, but think about it this way. You are right. He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in this league when healthy. He hasn't been healthy. He has a massive contract that's holding up the Colts from really addressing anything else. If Jacoby Brissett goes on to have a nice rest of the year, very good rest of the year where he's –
Which he won't.
Well, he's actually had a solid year so far. Not statistically, really. But
it doesn't matter, though.
Think about it. Think about it this way: if Jacoby Brissett goes on and play, and let's say he plays the rest of the season, Andrew Luck out for the rest of the year, and this is just a hypothetical. I don't think this is going to happen. I'm just for the sake of a podcast topic, Week 7 of the NFL season, might as well just throw it out here. If Jacoby Brissett plays great the rest of the season, right? You have to think about it this way. Okay, so now you have 2 quarterbacks. And one's healthy and the other one's not. Luck has been unhealthy the majority of his – well, I don't want to say majority. A good portion of his career. I believe he's on a 5-year, $123 million contract or something crazy. So he has an inordinate amount of money that's holding up the Colts, right? And just think about what they could get back for him. I mean, it's just – I don't know. And it's just like if they were to move Luck, they would be getting – as you said, I mean, this would be one of the first times a top 5 quarterback in his prime has ever been traded. Imagine the haul they could get. They could get first-round draft picks for the next 3 seasons, second-round draft picks, players on every – I mean, they would get an amazing haul. They could build around – and this is only if Brissett plays well, plays very, very good football. You build around Brissett, get a stock – you get that's not the word. You get an insane amount of resources, picks, players, and then you also free yourself up from all that money, and you can go dress up free. It would work out for them. The thing is Brissett needs to play very, very good football, and I don't think this is going to happen. I'm just saying, if Brissett plays like a top 10 quarterback in this league, I could easily see them moving on from Luck.
Sure, if he plays like a top 10 quarterback, I guess, but the odds of that. Listen, this is the problem, and Jeff Lloyd and I talk about this all the time. The hardest thing in pro sports to get is a franchise quarterback. And I don't mean a guy that's a long-term starter and a very good – I'm talking about a guy who you've got for 10 to 15 years. He's a perennial Pro Bowler. You're a threat to win the Super Bowl or contend for the Super Bowl every single year. You're Ben Roethlisberger's, Tom Brady's, guys like that. They're impossible to get. And when you do get one, you hang on for dear life. And when he's 28 years old, there's nothing – that makes you turn your back on that guy. It's not like it's Jay Cutler, which that whole thing was stupid anyway in Denver, but with Jay Cutler, at least it was one of those things where McDaniels came in, he tried to trade him because he wanted his own guy, then there was a whole fractured thing, and Cutler ended up getting traded in the prime of his career to Chicago. That was like an extenuating circumstance, but even Jay Cutler, who at the time was probably a top 12-ish quarterback, he's still nowhere near, at the time was nowhere near as good as Andrew Luck is now. Yeah, Andrew Luck can't stay healthy, but again, if the Colts are trading him, the only reason they're doing it is because they feel like he can't stay healthy. And so you have to really think to yourself, do I want to give up all these draft picks for a guy that this team thinks can't stay healthy, it just doesn't. It doesn't make sense because it's a catch-22. Like, Andrew Luck's not available unless there's something insanely wrong with him, and if there's something insanely wrong with him, is that an avenue you want to pursue and give up draft picks for the next 3-4 years? That's the problem. If it was just a situation where the Colts didn't want to pay him or there was some sort of fracturing that was unrepairable, something like that, fine. But if it's because he physically is worn out and nowhere near what he used to be and they don't think he can stay on the field, that's another story. So I just think that everybody that's throwing Luck around, like you said, Ben, it's a fun podcast topic, and it's nice for fantasy columns and stuff. I don't see it happening. Brissett, I don't know. He could be an option. I guess I'm not super thrilled about him. I think he could be okay, maybe. You talk about the guys in Minnesota. Sam Bradford, another guy who can't seem to stay healthy. Who knows what Minnesota does there? Teddy Bridgewater, who's another guy who can't stay healthy. And to be quite honest, I have no idea how good he really is when he is healthy because he was okay, I guess, when he was healthy, but he was very Alex Smith light in the sense that he wasn't a guy that made any real wow
MVP
plays.
Alex Smith?
Well, yeah, that was the other guy I was going to throw out.
Before this year's Alex, the old Alex Smith, let's say
Scott, that was another guy I was going to throw out. I mean, could you imagine Alex Smith becoming available with Patrick Mahomes being on the bench? I mean, obviously Smith has played terrific this season, but you never know. I mean, it's just there are going to be guys in the market that are relatively big name, and then you have the option of do you trade up?
Alex Smith, the problem with him for the Jets is that he's going to be 34 years old, and he doesn't make any sense for a young Jets team that's trying to rebuild from the ground up. He makes a lot more sense for a team that's trying to win right now. And so that's another avenue I don't think that the Jets should pursue. Look, would Alex Smith be the best quarterback the Jets have had in a decade? Sure. And is he a solid – I don't really believe that he's as good as he's been so far this season, although he has played great. Is he a solid quarterback? Sure, but at 34 years old, I just don't see the value in it. I think that you either go and make a deal for a Brett Hundley if he plays well or somebody else that becomes available. I don't think unless the Jets do some sort of weird thing with Jimmy Garoppolo where the Patriots trade him somewhere and then that team turns around and trades him to the Jets, I don't see Jimmy Garoppolo coming here. So like you said, there's the option of maybe trading up or whatever ends up happening there. We don't know which quarterbacks are even coming out at this point. We also don't know what the scouts are going to be saying. I mean, Lamar Jackson, we've been going back and forth on this. There's such a diverse amount of opinions on Lamar Jackson at this point. I mean, everybody wants to say, oh, all these old fuddy-duddy scouts don't know what they're talking about. But let me tell you, Bill Polian is a guy that's built more winning franchises than any general manager in the history of the sport. He built the Bills into a winning team, the Panthers into a winning team, the Colts into a winning team. And when I say winning team, I'm saying all of these teams were Super Bowl contenders and actually went to the Super Bowl more than once. So if he's sitting there telling you that Lamar Jackson, he doesn't think he has what it takes to be a quarterback, I'm not saying he's right, but clearly it's not just a bunch of dummies that are like, well, that's Lamar Jackson. So who knows with him? There's a lot of risks there. I was talking to Joe Blewett about it, and he was saying he would be terrified of picking Lamar Jackson high simply because of his frame and his style of play. When you're a guy that's built that skinny, and it's the Michael Vick thing, right? I mean, Michael Vick goes out there. Now, Michael Vick was smaller, but Michael Vick would get pounded because he was constantly leaving the pocket. If you're Cam Newton, all right, you could withstand it because you're 6'5" and 250, 260 pounds, so you can take some hits. Lamar Jackson, maybe not so much, but we don't know what's going to happen there. Is Darnold coming out? What's his stock going to be at the time anyway? Josh Rosen, is he coming out? We assume so, but if he does he go number one overall? And even if you identify a quarterback that you want at the top of the draft, who says that the team sitting up there wants to make a move? Especially now you look at what the Rams are doing with Jared Goff. You look at what the Eagles are doing with Carson Wentz. You look at what the Bucks and the Titans did with Mariota and with Winston. And by the way, both of those teams turned down trade offers left and right. From what you hear, the Titans turned down a king's ransom to move out of that spot because the Eagles desperately wanted Marcus Mariota. So you look at that and you say, hey, even if somebody's at the top, the assumption that the Jets could just give up a king's ransom and go up and get that guy, who knows? That may not even be the case. So it's really hard to say. Nobody knows. And this Joe Cabaroso has said, don't ever tank for a specific player. Where I kind of diverge from Joe is I don't believe in tanking for a player, but I do think that it's always advantageous to be, top 1 or top 2 in the draft, regardless of who's available, because it gives you so much flexibility in a variety of ways. But we don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. I happen to think at this point that it's fairly obvious that Christian Hackenberg is a sunk cost, and they realize it. I would be shocked if you see him before the very end of the season, if at all, barring injuries, because you watched him in the preseason. After the first game where you're like, all right, he's making baby steps, and then you watch him again and you're like, oh, my God, this guy, it's embarrassing. With Bryce Petty, you rolled your eyes, Kyle, on Sunday when I talked about Pat Ryan. I'm sure you're rolling him again now. But if Bryce Petty can become a serviceable quarterback, and maybe we could see that some point during this season, maybe he turns into that Pat Ryan. And we talked about Matt Moore. Look, Matt Moore gives the Dolphins a huge advantage in a way because they know that if their starter goes out, they don't have to start breathing into a brown paper bag or completely going crazy. They know, okay, we got a steady hand who can handle things for a while. Maybe not going to take us to the Super Bowl, but he's good enough to get us by. The Jets had that with Pat Ryan for 12 years. If Bryce Petty can develop into something like that, that's a valuable chip. And for a fourth-round pick, it's not a bad play. So we'll see. But the quarterback position, man, it's with the Jets, it's been such a hard luck thing for such a long time. And obviously, I'm older than the two of you guys. In fact, if you add your ages up together, I think I'm still older than you.
Yeah. Scott, how old are you?
I'm not answering that on the air. I'll tell you guys off the air.
Can we guess? Can we guess and tell us if we're even close?
Well, I'll put it this way. How's this? I'm older than Dalton, but I'm younger than Jeff Lloyd. How's that?
40.
Okay, Jeff is 42, I think.
Jeff is, something like that. I think it's 42 or 43, whatever it is. But no one really, I don't think anyone really cares about how old I am. But the point I'm making is the point I'm making is that the Jets have had this hole at quarterback for the longest time. We thought Chet, and Kyle, you can say he's overrated all you want, but you were, believe, 1 year old when he first started at quarterback. Chad Pennington was the guy that we believed was finally the answer to all our prayers, and then his shoulder got torn twice, and he was never the same after that. And the guy that we thought that the Jets had turned out to be a solid quarterback, but unfortunately not the long-term difference maker. Ken O'Brien was very good in the 80s, but even he had his ups and downs, and he was very good. I like to compare him to Matthew Stafford in a lot of ways. I think the Jets could do a lot worse than that, obviously, but Matthew Stafford's not Ben Roethlisberger or Tom Brady or somebody in that level. So that's what the Jets have been waiting for forever. When are they going to get that guy? I don't know. There's the Kirk Cousins. I don't even know if Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback at this point, but there's talk of him too, but he's going to get like $30 million. He's probably going to San Francisco. So I don't know, Ben. I mean, the Andrew Luck thing is interesting to talk about, but I don't see it realistically. And as far as what the Jets do long term, man, it's a tough call. There's a lot of football to be played this year. There's free agency, and there's the draft, and there's so many things that can pop one way or the other. Who knows? Or maybe we all get shocked, and somehow Christian Hackenberg comes out like week 12 and looks like a whole new man, and Mike McCagnon looks like the biggest genius there's ever been. I don't know, but at this point,
then he throws his 20 touchdowns and 16 interceptions, and Kyle has to bury himself alive.
There you go. Yeah. Then all of a sudden,
I'm here for it. Man.
we have that deal, Scott. I don't know if you're aware. We have the bet that if Christian Hackenberg threw 20 touchdowns or more and 16 interceptions or less, he had to have both of those, that Kyle would have to bury himself alive for 5 minutes.
Yeah. Welcome to the Jet Take with only Ben Blessington, ladies and gentlemen.
We'll cut down to Kyle, and he's dead. Okay. Anyway, Scott.
Kyle lost the buried alive match to The Undertaker, and he will not be joining us tonight.
Well, he would have a straw or a pipe, I guess. I don't know.
I was going to put a PVC pipe. Yeah. I had it planned out.
Okay, well, we have a question. So Hakeem called in, but, I mean, he had to leave. But he did tweet us a question, so I guess I'll read it to Scott. I'll go to you first, and Kyle, you next. What kind of impact could you expect from Lorenzo Malden if we activate him from the IR?
That's funny.
Pretty much none. Pretty
All
much
right.
none. I mean, I like Lorenzo Malden. He seems like a nice guy, and I know he was on your show, and I really...
The beer pong table's really nice.
Yes, and it's a very nice beer pong table.
But could he play
if anyone
David
wants
Bass's
to buy
role?
it, 85% off.
Could
So
he,
let me know.
could he buy
But-
David Bass? Could he play David Bass's role, though?
I guess, I don't know. The thing with Malden is he's what you call a try-hard. Like, he's a guy that tries really hard, but as far as, like, sheer athleticism and
so
natural
he's Ben.
ability.
He's Ben, is what you're saying.
Yeah, sure, except with a lot more money and a lot more fame. But Ben, you'll get there one day. But the fact is with Lorenzo Malden is he's a try-hard. He's a guy that really puts in a lot of effort. But from a natural athleticism and natural ability standpoint, there's a ceiling to how good he can be. I wouldn't be 100% shocked if he's not on this roster at all at the end of the year. I hate to say that, but it just doesn't seem like anything is working out so well for him. So I have no expectations of him if he comes back. If anything, he gives them is a straight bonus as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Kyle, what are your thoughts on Lorenzo Malden? And as far as a tryhard goes, I mean, I'm fine with having those guys on the team. I think, it is good to have some guys, especially in the backup positions, because if you're a backup, you probably, for the most part, aren't the most talented or athletically gifted players on the team. But I love having guys who are scrappy, are going to give it all on every play, like Malden, and, occasionally he's going to get some sacks, some cleanup sacks and whatever. I'd rather have a guy out there trying his hardest and isn't as athletically gifted as a tongue twister than compared to Muhammad Wilkerson, who, minus this week, has all the athletic ability in the world, but just looks like he doesn't care whatsoever. But I agree with your point, Scott, that he, I don't think he's probably built to be an every down starter in this league, but I think he could, much like a Bryce Petty, carve himself out a role as a role player on this team. But yeah, he needs to come back and show that he can be a situational pass rusher or whatnot. Kyle, your thoughts on Lorenzo Malden if he were to return this season?
I mean, if he comes back this season, performs well, that works for us because now we have, another guest lined up.
Hey, that's three guys that are playing well. I mean, if you count Kelvin Beachum, he's been pretty solid. At least better than Clady.
We're definitely going to line up ASJ again at some point this year. Well, probably not this calendar year, but just sometime in the future. Anyway, you know what I mean. But he didn't do much in the past. I don't know if he's going to do much in the future. So.
Yeah, I agree completely. Scott, I guess we'll close out the show with just your thoughts, and I guess we'll do all of ours since we're ending the show here. Thoughts, predictions for this Sunday against Atlanta.
I think Atlanta will win. I don't know by how much, but I think they really need this game. They're obviously in the midst of a real skid, and I just think Atlanta's a better team. The Jets will hang tight. I'm sure they'll be relatively close, but I think that Atlanta is going to end up winning this thing, and the Jets will go to 3-5, and then we'll start the discussions. It'll really get into high gear where you'll have the people that are still, hey, you pro-tank people, X, Y, and Z, and then the people on the other end will say, well, we're not rooting against the Jets, but they're 3-5, and that draft pick looks pretty good, and hey, did you see Josh Rosen this week? So I think that's where we're headed. I think
but even if they go 3-13, they're not getting Rosen. I mean, you're going to have to trade up, really, right?
More than likely, but it's a lot
unless
easier.
Deshaun Watson happens or something where he falls, but
right. But even so, it's a lot easier to trade up from the 3rd spot than from the 9th spot, right?
Yeah.
So,
no,
or to get an
I'm
impact pass
just
rusher.
I swear, if the Jets pick an outside linebacker with the 3rd overall pick, I think they're going to be riots outside of Florham Park.
Oh, Harold Landry.
They're worse.
I
like Landry. Well, I want to talk to your dad, Jeff Lloyd, about that.
No, okay. See, time out. I'm not okay with that. Like, I know that's like an ongoing joke. I'm like actually not okay with that though.
Look at that.
I don't
little
recall asking if you were.
Look at the snowflake, Kyle.
I love how now I have to get approval from Kyle to make jokes at his expense.
Yeah, Kyle,
you
throw it
later
than everybody. You have a dad. Sit down.
It's okay, Kyle. There are worse people that could be your dad than Jeff.
Could I have said that even? Okay, anyways. Anyways, yeah, no, Scott, I agree with you that I think it's going to be a tough game. As a Jets fan, it's hard for me to say that I think the Falcons will win. I predicted that I believe I predicted the Dolphins would win against the Jets this past week. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I'll take the Jets. I think they're both in skids. You're right, but I think that at home, it's debatable how much of an advantage that really is, though. But at home, I'll take the Jets. Why not? Close game, big morale booster head into the Thursday Night Football game with a lot of momentum. I try to put the optimist on the show. In the back of my head, I know as a Jets fan what to expect this Sunday, but I'll predict and hope for a victory. Kyle, you.
Yeah. Oh. I didn't know we were doing predictions.
Way to pay attention, son.
Yeah. Ooh. I'm gonna act like you didn't just say that. I'm just gonna skip over that. We'll talk about that later. Yeah, this is gonna be a hard L. Even though you roasted him, Buster Screen is gonna give up 2 touchdowns, and I'm saying over 4.5 pass interference calls. So
do you have a score prediction, or just Buster Screen predictions?
I'm gonna stick to Buster Screen predictions because I think they're more accurate. I think that usually tells you how the game's gonna go.
Can you give us a score prediction? Who's gonna win, Kyle? I'm gonna guess by your Buster Screen prediction, the Falcons.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Falcons 30, Jets 21.
Oh yeah, Scott, your score?
30-21. That sounds decent. Let's go with 27-17. Atlanta.
All right, I like it. 10-point difference for both of you. I'll say it's like almost hard for me to say because I know the Falcons are going to win, but I want the Jets to win, so I'll say I think it's going to be, if the Jets win, realistically it has to be a low-scoring game. So I'll take the Jets 21-17. Why not? All right, well I think that'll do it for us. On this episode of the Jet Take, I guess we'll sign up with Scott first. Scott, thank you so much for coming on. Shout out your podcast. Anything, let our listeners know anything up on the horizon for your show, or just let us know. Let our viewers know where they can give you a follow.
Oh yeah, sure. Well, first of all, you can follow me on Twitter at PlayLikeAJet1, and that's where you can find out all the information on the post-game podcast and also on Play Like a Jet. Post-game podcast, myself and Kyle will be captaining that. Oh, here we go.
Wow.
That's why I hesitated for a second. I was like, I'm bringing up
Get
old
out the show. Get off the show.
Well, Ben, I will say this again. You are welcome to come on the show.
No, I won't be on this weekend because I'll be on a plane ride, but thank you.
All right, well, I was going to say, you're welcome to come on the show as long as you...
What a cut.
As long as you work out your marital...
All right.
As long as you work out your marital stuff with Kyle, you're welcome to come on the show anytime. But we'll be doing that on Sunday. And this Friday, so a couple days from now, we're going to be starting a look at the 1986 season, which was actually one of the best seasons in Jet history and almost became a truly historic season in New York sports because the Giants won the Super Bowl that year. And we also had the Mets.
No, we don't acknowledge that. We don't.
The Mets also won the World Series, so it was a huge year for New York sports. And we're going to talk about it with one of the best kick returners in the history of the Jet franchise, JoJo Townsell. It's funny, we just had another great kick returner, Justin Miller, and he was on to talk. No, slightly fewer fair catches. You can't fair catch a kick return, I believe. But Justin Miller...
You can, right? You can fair catch a kick return. It just never happens. You just take touchbacks.
Yeah. Right. I guess that would be the equivalent of a fair catch, although I don't think you can fair catch it on the 5-yard line, could you? I don't know. That'd be a weird one. But, yeah, so we had Justin Miller on a Tuck 2006. That was fun. And 1986 begins on Friday with JoJo Townsell. And JoJo will talk this week about some interesting things, including the fact that when he came out of school, he was drafted by both the USFL and the NFL, and he picked the USFL. He'll tell you why he did that. He'll also tell you what it was like to play in the USFL. And then we're going to hear some interesting stuff. We get in the beginning of the season, and you're going to hear about JoJo Townsell playing against one of the greatest quarterbacks in the history of the sport in his very first NFL start, and what that was like. It was a guy that JoJo had played against and knew fairly well from his days in the USFL, so we'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk about a game that the Jets had against the Patriots that year, and there was something interesting and innovative that the Patriots were doing on offense that no team –
Breaking news.
There was something that they were doing that was innovative on offense that no team was doing at the time, and no team has done since. It's really very interesting, and a lot of people don't know it. In fact, funny enough, a friend of mine is a diehard Patriots fan, and I was talking to him about this and getting him ready for I was getting him ready for this week's episode of the show, and when I mentioned to him this thing that I just brought up about the Patriots doing very innovative on offense, he was like, wow, really? I didn't even know that. And then he had to go back and read about it. So a lot of interesting stuff coming up when we start part one of 1986 with JoJo Townsell. You can subscribe on iTunes. You can get us anywhere where you can download podcasts, obviously at turnonthejets.com. And that's where you can get this podcast, The Jet Take, where you can hear Kyle and Ben argue like a married couple every single week with some Jet talk sprinkled in somewhere.
Yeah.
And you can also get Joe and Dalton on the Turn on the Jets podcast. I've been filling in a little bit here and there, and also usually you can hear me on there previewing Play Like a Jet. And Dalton and Jeff Lloyd also doing draft season. You can get that there at turnonthejets.com. You get the post-game podcast on Sunday. So we're really loaded for bear at TOJ Digital. Please leave all of our shows a review on iTunes. I promise you it'll take you 2 seconds. It costs you nothing, but it really helps all of us out a lot in terms of visibility and being able to attract better guests and build up a following. So if you love what we're doing and you like the fact that we're providing this content to you every week for free, listen, we're not asking you for money or anything else. Just leave us a review. It'll take you 2 seconds. We all really appreciate it.
You guys can Venmo me money if you'd like.
Well, yeah, Scott, I mean, good stuff as always. One of the best in the business and also one of the most hardworking individuals I've met in my time running this show. So everybody, make sure you check out Play Like a Jet. Good stuff over there, and especially everybody on TOJ Digital. TurnOnTheJets.com for that. Scott, thanks so much for calling in. I hope to hear from you next week, but I know you and Kyle will talk this weekend. I guess you're taking the wife's side, I guess.
We're currently DMing about how annoying your voice is.
Well, Ben, first of all, thank you as always for having me on. Second of all, now I feel your pain with having to deal with Kyle every single week, so you and I can commiserate. Kyle, you and I, I'm sure we'll talk before Sunday, but we'll definitely talk when we do the post-game podcast on Sunday. And Ben, my offer stands if you're around on what would be Friday night, my time on the East Coast, and Friday afternoon, your time on the West Coast. I've got a long drive ahead of me, so if you want to chat about what we were talking about before as far as Hofstra and Syracuse and all that, you let me know, and we'll get a phone call going, brother.
All right, I'm down. Kyle. Stick it to Kyle. He's not invited.
Bail on you 15 minutes before you're going to talk. I bet money.
No, I'm not. I did just bail on Joe Maffa. I live a very busy life, Kyle.
Oh, yes, Ben.
I'm about to take a hard nap.
I'm going to have to come back next week and get in the middle of this marital dispute again, aren't I?
Yes, you will. Scott, thank you so much, man. We'll look forward to hearing from you next week, and hopefully after a Jets victory.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, that was Scott from Play Like a Jet podcast. Kyle, did you just insult my voice? Do we need to go back to the first ever episode of the Jet Take and hear your voice?
The past is the past, Ben. I mean, I'm just looking towards the future, trying to build the brand.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. The future's here. I'm 39-year-old Josh McCown. You're Christian Hackenberg. Pick your poison. All right, I guess that's where we'll end it.
So you're a bum, and I'm somebody people are hoping.
Hey, I made a 15-year career in this league, buddy. Second-round draft pick bust. We picked him high. We thought he had a lot of potential. He just didn't pan out.
You played way too focused. You played in the Arena Football League. So.
Not true. I was a backup. I've got my team the number 1 overall draft pick quite a bit. I'm going to fail this season.
That means you were the best at sucking then, which I think
amazing.
Others can testify for.
Okay. All right, I'll admit that was pretty good. I laughed. I did laugh. Kyle with his 6th grade sense of humor.
All right.
That's where we'll have to end it. That's unfortunate. As always, you can actually. I guess
we're just gonna listen to that one and be like, all right, he'll fit it right in with the dorms. I mean,
deferred. Anyways, so Kyle, really quickly, I guess we should shout this out. Is that if you want discounted tickets from the New York Jets, our offer still stands. Go to the New York Jets website, enter the promo code the Jet Take. You can get discounted tickets on this Sunday's game against the Atlanta Falcons and next Thursday's game against the Buffalo Bills. Last opportunity. You can get on-the-field access after the game and a discount on pretty good seats. Official New York Jets tickets. Go to NewYorkJets.com and enter in the promo code the Jet Take. That'll do it for us. As always, you can follow us on Twitter. That's the best place to follow us, over 1,000 followers. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, other places and formats you can follow us on. And as far as to listen to our podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and many others, Google Play among them, our podcast is on. So make sure to check it out. And as Scott was saying, please give a review, like, share, anything to help out the podcast. It really does help with, as he said, getting guests and more listens and whatnot. And as Scott said, make sure you check out TurnOnTheJets.com. A lot of great content digitally with the podcasts and draft season. Turn on the Jets podcast, Play Like a Jet, and ourselves, hopefully, if they still keep us on between our marital spats. And also just great written work, as always, on Turn on the Jets. So make sure you check those guys out. That'll do it for us as far as another episode of the Jet Take. Thank you so much for all the love and support we've gotten recently. I keep saying recently. I guess over the past few months. I don't think I could say recently anymore. But thank you so much to you guys. Our listeners have gone up, and some big things in the works. So stay tuned onto our Twitter page in here. We have probably a nice little giveaway we might be doing for our listeners and fans, as a thank you. But we'll save off on announcing that for a bit.
No, Ben, you can't just tempt us.
When I say save off for a bit, I mean maybe another week, and then we'll announce it. But make sure, sharing, helping help the podcast with following, liking, whatnot, and our listens have gone up. We want to thank everybody tremendously. So we got to give the payback to the fans. So, anyways, just stay tuned for that. All right, I guess I'll end the show. Kyle, any last words, or do you want to wait till any last words relevant to the New York Jets? I know you like to give your funny end of the.
Yeah. Regarding the Jets.
Okay, he has nothing regarding the Jets.
Yeah,
he's just here for the laughs.
I guess start Bryce Petty. I guess.
Wow, starting the Bryce Petty movement. All right, well that's Fahey's bold last words. I'm Ben Blessington alongside Kyle Fahey. That's where we'll end it. We'll talk to you guys next week. We'll leave you with the best chant in the National Football League. Go Jets. Talk to you guys next Wednesday.
Beer can to the face at Hard Rock Stadium.
What? What was that? When did that happen? That was your ending. That was your ending.
That was to a friend of ours.
You could have gone after Buster Screen.
Oh, wait. No. I got a good one. Ben, pull up your skirt.
Okay.